Hello friends, good morning. I hope you all are well and fine. And today we are starting the third unit's 4.3 topic. What is the poverty? This topic we have discussed yesterday. We have completed. What is the poverty? Poverty that means what? Poverty that means hunger. Poverty that means sick. Or poverty that means having not a job. Or poverty that means not educated. Poverty that means what? Illness. Poverty that means what? Unclear water? Or poverty that means what? Powerlessness. A person who has not power. That person is poor. A person who is illiterate, that is poor. We have this so many questions in our mind. Poverty that means what? So many scholars given different answers. Like this only. We have also same answer. Some will say poverty that means a person who is hungry. Some will say, ma'am, poverty that means a person who is sick but not getting doctor's treatment. Another will say, no, ma'am, poverty that means a person who have not proper shelter, who have not house. Person who is living on the footpath, that is poor. Or a person who have not proper adjustment with society, that is poor. A person who have not sufficient uh, I can say sufficient facilities, not having proper or pure drinking water, or a person who have not any type of power for living, that person is poor. I will say yeah, a person who have no this type of uh, facilities, a person who have not this type of all things, not proper food, not shelter, not cloth, not adequate facility of education, pure drinking water, ability of the doctors. These facilities have not, then only I will say that person is poor. Now our second thing is how are poor people identified? How we can identify? If you are a person, if you will identify the person, how I will get the poor person. So for that, you will search on the footpath. Then you will search on the hutment, devailing hutment. Then after you will search on the near the road. Some have shop, okay, on the footpath only. You will search poverty in slum areas. You will search poverty in rural areas. You will search poverty near to hospitals. You will search poverty at near to railway track. Yeah, near to railway track, railway stations. So many people are beggar and they are roaming here and there near to road only. They are roaming and they have not proper food, they have not proper clothes, they have not proper shelter. They are living on the footpath, they are selling some type of goods. If we are roaming, if we are passing from the road, that time also some people carried another younger person, younger child on the hand, and they are selling some type of ball pens, some type of lights, some type of cards, some type of notebook, some type of drawing book, and other things, car useful things, and this other type of things they are selling. So these are poor. Overall, I will say yeah, these all are poor. That means in our society, in our country, number of people are poor, and it is our India's a major problem of our country. People are poor, they are not getting income, they have not sufficient income. These people's are not having sufficient income to satisfy their basic requirement. They cannot eat food, they cannot get treatment from the doctor, and they have not proper house, so they are living on the footpath. These are living. These are very poor peoples. And in a one word, I will say, yeah, these all are poor. How we can identify? We can identify by we can find by two ways. There's two ways. First one is viable and second one is sustainable. First one is viable and second one is sustainable. So there's two type of way to find the poor person. Okay. To address the cause of the poverty and design schemes to help the poor out their situation. So there's schemes to be implemented, government implemented. So you have the question. Government have offered for the reduce the poverty. Yeah, government offered it. Now also offered to decrease the poverty. But because of the many causes, now also it is a major problem of our country. So government also have to need to develop a scale to measure poverty. And the factor and make up the criteria for the measurement or mechanism need to be carefully chosen. Okay, so in pre-independent India, in India, Dadabhai Naoroji was the first to discuss the concept of the poverty line. Who has first discussed the concept of poverty line in India? They can write this answer, Dadabhai Naoroji after pre-independent India. He used the menu for a pioneer and used appropriate prevailing prices to arrive at what may be called jail cost of living. Okay, so only adults stay in jail, whereas in an actual society there are children too. He therefore appropriately adjusts this cost of living to arrival at the poverty line. Non-pioneer, absolutely poor, very poor, poor. Not so poor, middle class, upper class, the rich, the very rich, and millionaires and billionaires. Okay, it is the poverty line. From absolutely poor, we can be increases now. Okay, absolute poor, that means a person who have not food, cloth, and shelter. That is absolute poor. Okay, very poor, that means he can satisfy the requirement, basic requirement, but very poor. Not all requirement, but some requirements can be satisfied. So these are very poor. Poor, that means what? These people are satisfying these requirements, but not quality, not sufficient. That is poor. Not so poor, that person is poor, then middle class. Then after upper class people's compared to upper class, middle class and this all are poor. And compared to rich, upper middle class, not so poor and poor, very poor, this all are poor. Okay. So it is what? It is relatively poor. Absolute poor, that means a person who cannot satisfy the basic requirements like food, shelter, and cloth. That person is known as poor. Okay. Um, Absolute poor. This type of poverty line decided by our government. We will discuss this one now only. So for the adjustment, he assumed that one third population consisted of children and half of them consume very little while the other half consume half of the adult diet. This is how to arrive at 8 the factor 3 fourths 1/6 nil plus 1/6 half plus second third half 2 third half equal to third fourth full. The weighted average of the consumption of the three segments gives the average power. Okay, so which come out to be 3/4 of adult gel cost of living. In the post-independent India, there have been several attempts to work out a mechanism to identify the number of poor the country. For instance, in 1962, the Planning Commission, in 1962, the Planning Commission formed a study group. Who formed Planning Commission? In 1979, another body called the Task Force on projections of minimum need and effective consumption demand was formed. In 1989, an expert group was constituted for the same purpose. Okay. Now we are discussing here. It is the poverty line. In this poverty line, we can be measure a person who have not satisfied the basic requirement. That person is poor, then very poor. Very poor person is poor, then poor, like that. So it is the poverty line. And compared to billionaires, all other are poor. Okay. It is what it is the poverty line. Next one is the besides those bodies. Category is given. Okay, poor people's category is given here. And now we will discuss it how they are getting and what they are getting. But before that, it's very essential to identify it. Besides these bodies, many individual economists have also attempts to develop such a mechanism for purpose of defining. Wait a minute, I'm just checking that. Besides these bodies, many individual economists have also attempted to develop such a mechanism for the purpose of defining poverty. We divide people into two categories. How many categories? We can divide these poor people into two categories, poor and non-poor. The poverty line separated the two, poor and the non-poor. There's two type of separate the line, poverty line. There are many kind of poor, the absolutely poor, the very poor, the poor. There are many kinds of the poor. First one is absolute poor, very poor, and the poor. Similarly, there are various kind of non-poor also. A person who is not poor, that also many types. First one is what? These are rich, okay, upper class, rich and very rich. The absolutely rich. Think of this as a line or con- and continuum from the very poor to the absolutely rich with the poverty line, dividing the poor from the non. So these are two categories, poor and non-poor. First one we are discussing categorizing poverty. In this categorizing poverty, what is the level of the poverty? Always poor, Usually poor, seasonal poor, or what type of poor? You write it. Some are always poor, and some are only in the particular season they are poor. So we will discuss this. There's various type of the categories for the poor. There are many ways to categorize the poverty. These many categories are poverty in such ways people who are always poor and those who are usually poor but who may sometimes have a little more money are grouped together as the chronic poor. Another group are also poor but these poor are churning poor. Churning poor, that means what? Who regularly move in the out of urban area. Okay, out of from their area and occasionally poverty and occasionally poor. Next, we can say small farmer, seasonal farmer. These are these are what type of poor? These are casually poor. Okay, churning poor, chronic poor. You can draw the chart. First one I say there are two type of poor. First one is always poor and those who are usually poor. But who may sometimes have a little more money are grouped together as the chronic poor. Another group are the churning poor. Okay, and regularly move in and out of their poverty. Sometimes they are poor, sometimes not. Like small farmers during the season time, these are getting work. So we can say these are getting work. So these are getting income also. So during season time, these are not poor. But what's about other time period? In the other time period, these people are poor because of these are not getting any type of work, these are not getting any type of occupation, so these are poor during the off season. If weather is there, then they can get the work. If weather is not there, they cannot get the work like this. So, and the occasionally poor who are rich most of the time, but may sometimes have a patch of bad luck. Okay, these are rich. Some people are rich, but occasionally poor. Occasionally poor, that means because of the bad luck. They are not getting work, they are not getting job, or maybe removed from the job, or maybe their business is not in a proper work. So these people are poor, and they are called the transient poor. And then there are those who are never poor, and they are the non-poor. The poverty line. Next one is the poverty line. What do you mean by the poverty line? Poverty line, that means we can get the knowledge that person is poor or not by this measurement, by this line. And it has decided by the uh, research. Indian Medical Council research decided 2,400 calories for the rural people and 2,100 calorie for the urban person. Who has decided this calorie? I said now only. I said that Indian Medical Council research have decided this calorie 2,400. You can highlight it. 2,400 calorie for the rural areas people and 2,100 calorie for the urban areas person. And if a person who got the less than this calorie in the rural area and the urban area, these people are poor. And this is the poverty line which is decided by the Indian Medical Council research. In the year 1999 2000, in this year only they have decided this calorie. They have estimated. Okay, according to the calculus. Then after the poverty line was defined for the rural areas as consumption was raised rupees 328 per person per month, and for the urban areas it was 454. Okay, in the urban area. So this type of income they have decided, but it is related to 1999 2000. According to time, it has also changed. 326 per person per month in a rural area and 454 in the urban area in 1999 2000. It has the port line. Next one is through the government uses monthly per capita expenditures. Marginal monthly per capita expenditure as proxy for the income of households to identify the poor. Do any think this mechanism satisfactorily identifies the poor households in our country? First one is the chronic poor, then transit poor and non-poor. It just graph diagrams are given here. It is the poverty line. It is what? The poverty line. Lower than this poverty line, always poor. That person cannot get the internet income. Okay, you can get idea by this one. It's very easy to understand. So by this only you can get the idea. It is the lower than poverty line. It is the poverty line. It is what? It is the poverty line. So below the poverty line, a person who is living, that person is will be always poor. After that, next one is usually poor. Sometime only more than poverty line income that person or that people can be generated. So we can say it is usually poor. Next one is churning poor. Churning poor is what? That person can be get more income, can again less, can more income, can less. So it type of fluctuation, this type of fluctuation in this poverty line, churning poor. Next one is occasionally poor. Occasionally poor, that means during the season time, that person can get the job. Out of season, that person will be removed from the work and job, and that person will be again poor. Like this, in the sugar mill, during the sugarcane season, people will get the job, and whenever this is out of season, sugarcanes are out of season, people as laborers will not get the job in the sugar mill. So some people will be removed during that time period. So that is what? That is the occasional poor. Last one is never poor. A person whose income is higher than poverty line, always higher than poverty line, that person is always rich and that person is never poor. So that is non-poor. First one is chronic poor. These are two types, always poor and usually poor. Next one is transient poor. Transient poor are also two types. These two types are churning poor and occasionally poor. Okay. Next one is non-poor. Non-poor are again two type, poor and never poor. This type of chart you also draw in your notebook and complete your notebook. This one is related to our past time period. We will discuss it. Now at present I have not sufficient time, already 58 is here. So I'm trying to explain it, but I'm unable to explain. I have a bit less time. So next day I will complete this all, and then after we have to, if you have written, you can submit your assignment to my personal contact number. You can get my personal contact number from the Rupali ma'am, principal ma'am. You can get that person my personal contact number. Okay, friends. So we revise same topic at your home, and be safe, be healthy. We will meet again in the next period. Bye bye. See you. Okay, friends. Bye.